bucket, we have a front engine and a rear engine. The front engine controlling the driving cab, and the rear engine controlling the heaters, the pumps, and the buckets.
So FlightCheck has a total of 14 de-icing trucks. All the de-icing trucks that FlightCheck has, they're all open buckets. All the trucks pretty much look the same.
So here we use two different fluids. We got our Type 1 and our Type 4. Type 1 being the de-icing fluid and the Type 4 being the anti-icing fluid.
Each truck has these stickers on the side. It'll tell you FlightCheck uses Cryotech, Polar Plus LT. For the Type 1, orange, and then green, Type 4, Polar Guard Advanced. This is your side tubes. This is very important that when you do the service tickets, you have to make sure before any de-icing event, you have to put how many gallons you started with Type 1 or Type 4.
You always want to make sure that the fluid is not leaking out of the truck, so always make sure when inspecting the truck, you don't see any leakage on the ground. Here's how we fill up our trucks with our fluid. We have our Type 1 fill port here and our Type 4 fill port here. You always want to make sure our caps are on and secured so we're not leaking fluid from here. You also want to make sure that the valves are closed so that no fluid spillage is possible. Here we have the controls for our rear engine. This is something we'll teach you later on in OJT, but I do want to point out this is one of the emergency stops on the truck. We want to make sure that this is not pushed in, otherwise the engine will be cut off. Behind the truck we have a fire extinguisher. We also have one in the driver's cab, which I'll be showing you. So please make sure during your walk around that you check for the tag to make sure it's still there and that the gauge is still in the green field. Back here on the passenger side of the rear of the truck, you'll find a master disconnect switch. In order to turn on the rear engine, you will have to turn it on to be able to operate the controls that we looked at earlier. While we're making our way to the next kill switch, I do want to point out this heater here on the right side of the truck. We would like to keep our trucks arm space apart in order to keep the heater from melting the controls on the left side of the truck. So let's look at this kill switch on the passenger side of the truck. In order to operate the cab and drive it, you will have to turn this on in order to turn on the engine in the cab.
When you're done de-icing and your manager or supervisor asks you to park the trucks, when you shut them off, make sure the master disconnect goes in the off position. Here you have the interior of the de-icing truck. The truck is pretty simple, they're all the same. Each truck is equipped with a radio. This is how you can communicate with your team members, your supervisor, manager, if you have any questions, and just in overall communication. Make sure your radio's on and the volume's all the way up and it's in de-icer mode. Very important, this is not a car that you put in park. Each truck, if you look at on the gauges, you only have reverse, neutral, and drive. Do not worry about gear 3, 2, and 1. In order to turn on the truck, make sure it's in neutral. Parking brake is set, and that means it has to be pulled out. And just turn on the vehicle like any other car. In order to drive the vehicle, please make sure you step on the brake pedal, push in the brake, and the only gears you need to worry about is either D for drive going forward or R for reverse. Again, very important, the vehicle is not moving. Even if you're waiting for an aircraft, please assure it's in neutral and the brakes are set. Over here to my right as a driver, you have your basically defroster. Just turn on the fan.
Other components on the driver's side are the turn signals, which is this switch here, as well as your headlight switch. To be able to turn them on, you'll pull this here, and then to turn them off, you'll push them in.
Please assure anytime you go inside the de-icing truck, your headlights are on. Even if it's during the day, nice and sunny like we have today, it's very important that your headlights are on all the time when operating the vehicle.
As far as the windshield wipers, They are operated by turning this knob here, and to be able to spray fluid, you'll push this button in. This button down here are your high beam lights to be able to turn them on. Push them again to be able to turn them off. And then here you have your caution and hazard lights. I do have a hard time getting a visual on it, but it would be this lever here. Pull them out to turn on your caution lights, and then push them back in to turn them off.
Back here, this is where you connect your headsets. Most of the mistakes when it comes to headsets, when the driver is saying that the headset's not working because there's an on and off button over here. You put in the headset in here and it doesn't work, that means it's probably in the off position. Make sure it's in the on position. Again, this is to hook up your headsets. Here's your volume, counterclockwise and clockwise. That's all it takes.
To the right side of the driver, we have a panel here that will show you a digital or gauge reading of the temperature of the type 1 fluid being sprayed. We also have an emergency stop. Please make sure it's not pushed in, otherwise we won't be able to operate the truck. I also want to point out the boom out of rest. If this is illuminated, that means the boom is out of rest and not sitting in its place. Please make sure that if this is illuminated, for your sprayer or yourself to go check and make sure that that bucket is all the way down. Here you have the option to turn on the top window wiper, because these Trump D2000s have the luxury of a sunroof. On top of this control panel here, we do have your view cameras. Please make sure not to rely solely on this camera, but always use a guide pin. We have hooks inside of the trucks to hang up harnesses. Please make sure you always take your harness with you if you are the sprayer, and always wear your harness.
All sprayers must wear a safety harness before they de-ice.
We also have clipboards and binders with information regarding flights and to track down information on your ticket. The tickets are located inside this tin. So now I'm going to show you guys a little bit more about our bucket. Please make sure that you secure your door. Under here we have the controls to go up and down, left and right. You'll learn much more about it during on-the-job training. Here we have our type 1 hose. To remove it from its area, you just release this and then pull it out. Make sure you always properly secure it by doing so. And here we have our type 4 nozzle. These are color-coded in green and orange, and it's also stickered here so that you'll be able to tell the difference. Also, another thing to be sure of is that your type 1 valve is on, as well as your type 4 if it's requested. Otherwise, if it's in the shut-off position, you will not be receiving fluid. Here is where the sprayer would put in their headset, and this input here, and also be able to control the volume. And here we have the panel for your controls, fluid delivery pump, and you also have your basket lights for these spotlights here for you to have more visibility on the aircraft. And I just want to point out another e-stop here. Make sure that is pulled out at all times unless there's an emergency. And that is all for the bucket. Welcome to de-icing again. Have a good one.